head start on the budget process.
We hope you've had fun exploring this Carnival of Carnage. But there are a few dark corners left yet to discover. A carnival wouldn't be complete without a freak show. And fuck your rebel flag. It's just this way. The Dim Carnival.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Bill.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Steve.
And this is the Dim Carnival. It's like the Dark Carnival, but a little bit lighter. Or is it? I like to think that it's like the Dark Carnival, but stupider.
Right.
Like dim in that sense, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I was thinking. It's both.
It's got two meanings.
Because we're a little bit nicer than these clowns. And also, maybe not as smart.
Our backup title was The Neat Carnival. We're not going to take your money on the rigged milk bottles game. We're the Neat Carnival. Anyway, this week is a very exciting week because it is the last week that we are talking about Carnival of Carnage. We're talking about the last 5 tracks in Carnival of Carnage. The first song, which we talked about last week, track 11 is Blackin Your Eyes, and they don't understand the distinction between Blackin with an I-N apostrophe and Blackin E-N, the act of making black. But we said we wouldn't talk a lot about this track, and we're not going to talk a lot about this track. It does sample I Want to Sex You Up by Color Me Bad. That's probably the best thing about it.
I couldn't even hear that.
It's the most misogynistic song that ICP has ever put down on wax. It's about just beating up women. It's just it. That's it.
Fucking terrible song.
Yeah,
man.
it's awful. They on Forgotten Freshness Volume 3 or 4, they have a song that was recorded way back in this time when they did this one. It's called Dear ICP, and they actually reference a little bit of this where like a guy saying my girlfriend's cheating on me. It's kind of like a Dear Abby kind of a storyline. And so this guy's saying, hey, my girlfriend's cheating on me. And they reference back this song because Violent J says, Blackin Her Eyes, you little TikTok. And so that, like, TikTok is something they say a bunch in this stupid song. And then they reference it again in another song. And that's how I even recognize that, because I actually heard Dear ICP before I ever heard Blackin Your Eyes. And so, yeah. But those were a couple things that, at least historically, to point out about those songs that I did remember. So
that's great. No, thank you for that context. That's very, very good to know. Like, it's good to know that they've actively disavowed these songs.
Yeah.
That they're like, whoops, we fucked up.
Another thing about this song, if I may point out, is Violent J is on it, and where I think mostly he talks over some stuff. He's kind of almost doing skit-like lyrics. But if I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of the rhymes come from Shaggy and his brother Jazz, the Kick Jazz or whatever his name is. If I'm not mistaken, I feel like that's. I only listened to the song a couple times, and it was a long time apart because I wanted to just say something about it. And what stood out to me the most, outside of the skits in the beginning and the end, which I want to talk about too, I felt like Violent J wasn't on that song very much, and it was like Shaggy and his brother, and I could be wrong.
I don't know.
Just go with what I'm saying.
But that's it. You didn't have, if you listen to this song, we're sorry.
I have the skit going into it has a young lady on the phone with her friend first talking about how she was like sucking some guy's nuts, and then her friend says, did you have sex? And then, yeah, did you fuck him? She's like, yeah, he fucked me in the ass. And so then she's like, what about Jerome or whatever? She says some name. And she's like, something to the effect of what he doesn't know won't hurt him. And then she's like, hold on, I get another call. And she switches over the call, and it's Shaggy. And he's like screaming at her, like, what the fuck? You're fucking on me. And he's like, I'm going to come and kill you. Or he says something really awful. And she just like casually hangs up and goes back to her friend. And her friend's like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, wrong number. And so I thought, like, so why is that what leads into this awful, awful song? Is the girl in this song like not thinking that her boyfriend is crazy that would kill her if she cheats? And so is that kind of like an out for how awful that song is? They're trying to say like, oh, I snapped because this lady cheated on me. I was super nice. She was never scared of me. And now you cheated on me and I am crazy.
Well, my reading of that in the year 2017, which is 1 billion % what 1991 Insane Clown Posse did not intend. What I take away from that skit is it really was a wrong number, and men and the patriarchy are so fucked up that that's every man.
Oh.
Every man's a fucking monster that hates women and is quick to like threaten violence against women, that they'll just call and scream at anyone that they're gonna like. In society, all women are interchangeable and all men are monsters. Like, that's just the reading that I take away from that skit, which is absolutely not what that skit's intending, but that's what I'm choosing to imbue that skit with.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's a real nice way to read it.
The other part of it was the song ends, and they've been awful throughout that entire song, regardless of who was rapping. But at the end of that song, in the skit, it leads to Violent J being at the pearly gates, I think, which leads into
Never Had It Made.
Yeah, Never Had It Made.
Yeah, let's talk about Never Had It Made.
First, I was born young and healthy. I told my mother one day I'd be wealthy. Can't forget my first day at school. Got stabbed in the head with a pencil, but it's cool. Get my education, a job and a family, a good reputation. And what about grade 2? Got shot in the neck and the bullet went straight through.
On the tracks that I have on the CD anyway, Never Had It Made starts with him being at the pearly gates and asking to be let in.
Okay,
and
yeah,
I absolutely love this song because, to me, this is the first absolutely true canon Insane Clown Posse song to me. And what makes it even cooler is that there are 4 verses in here, maybe 5, and Violent J does a different Violent J voice in every verse, and it is fucking amazing. Because the thesis of the song, the premise is, they're like, oh, I've heard about you, Violent J. You're an absolute monster. And he tells his story about how he got to be this way. And it's the story of his life as Violent J.
And it's brilliant.
And ultimately, starting with the intro of Psychopathic, where they're talking about the ghetto zone. I mean, like, it's a little bit peppered through the beginning of the album, but starting with Psychopathic on, the album is truly about how the ghetto has created the Dark Carnival, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this was so last week I was saying about how Psychopathic was at least my favorite song up until that point, and I said I had a tie for favorite, and this is definitely my other favorite, if not maybe even a little bit more. And the only reason why I think I like Psychopathic better is just because I have a longer history with the song. But this song, I agree with you 100%. It is definitely canon. You know, where everything else was leading towards canon, this song feels like more like just canon.
Yeah.
I love,
because it's especially true in later years. Like, more and more in the later years is like the base intention of at least Violent J, maybe Shaggy 2 Dope too, but we can't be completely sure. But the base intention of Violent J is like, when he was born, when he was a kid, he had every intention of being a good person. Yes. And he went in as a good person, and like the first thing that happened to him was he got stabbed in the head.
Yeah, but it's cool.
And that's interesting too, because that's kind of like where all of their storytelling begins, is with school, and school being awful, and how he was treated and bullied at school are like really common themes forever, and like all of their albums, right? But then also it sets up the kind of loner outcast mentality, because the song, I think that's one of the things that I think makes it accessible to folks. Like the fact that he could kill himself in songs and keep going, like it makes it seem like fantastical or whatever, and so people accept it like a scary movie, sort of like a slasher movie, instead of like a person really saying that they've done these things.
Yeah.
But he also sings very genuinely, or raps very genuinely, about feeling like a reject and an outcast from society and different from everyone. And then that there's kind of like something that can live on in the idea that a loner or a person who's an outcast can like live their full life and not have to worry about like being killed or whatever, that they think that they might be because they're an outcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to follow up on that, I kind of agree with what you're saying about that, and being an outcast. He talks about going through school and everything being messed up for him, and nothing ever working out for him right, everyone being mean to him. And then he's out on the streets, and he's leading up to talking about how he's going to be selling crack. But he says, I seen a man with a briefcase and no head. So I'm like, fuck that. It was just interesting that it stood out to me, because he's this like outcast guy, and he's like even looking at someone who has his stuff together as like a businessman, and he sees him without a head, kind of a thing. Like this, this man's like an automatron, like he's not an autonomous person. He's just like a robot that works 9 to 5. I mean, and I may be reading too much into that, but that's how I always interpreted that.
No, that's exactly what I get from it too.
Yeah. And I just think it's kind of deep for such a goofy song,
But and this is another reason why I feel like this is the first true Insane Clown Posse song, is because the subject matter is dark and is very grounded in reality while still being clever and funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's as opposed to tracks on this album where they kill indiscriminately and they're murderers and they're abusers. He's stating his case of, look, I am the way I am because the world failed me.
He bit into a hot dog with a razor blade in it.
The first verse, I want to point out, one of my very favorite non-rhymes is so good. What about grade 2? Got shot in the neck and the bullet went straight through, but I'm packing a textbook. Don't fuck with me because I'm going to grade 3. Thank God it's lunch in a minute. Bit into my hot dog with a razor blade in it, and it cut my tongue off. But I know how to multiply now, so what's up, boss?
That's like my favorite line of that song.
Yep, that's the same. I wrote down the same line.
It's just, that stood out to me.
Because like that's
what
like
made me love the song.
Yeah, that's the ultimate boast about being in 3rd grade. Is like, I know how to multiply. I mean, I cut my tongue off, but I do know how to multiply.
Right. Well, and what he's getting at there is the same idea that he communicates in a later song when he's talking about how useless the information that they try to teach in school is. Like, can you go to McDonald's and tell them that you can make limestone from gunpowder? Will they give me a cheeseburger if I know that shit? Like, he
fuck
doesn't.
You, fuck no, fuck your fuck.
Right, he like sees no value in the school system.
Yeah, I love again. I love that every single verse he does in a different voice, and they're all iconic Violent J voices. Like, this is the first ICP song, and also he ate a dead body. I'm not going to tell anybody about it, but he did. So the first one is the public school system like failed him and is fucked up, and he got abused in that system. Then he got hooked on drugs thanks to the ghetto and the situation. That's the second verse. The third verse is he gets sent to prison, which is another broken system that failed him. And then the rest of the song, the long fourth verse in the outro, is him now that he's gone through school, gone through the ghetto, gone through drugs, and gone through prison. Now he's Violent J. And now they can try and kill him as much as they want, but he won't die. Like, he can get hit by a train, his legs can get ripped off. He's going to keep on trucking. It's nothing but a minor cough. But the verse where he goes to prison, them breaking his back, neck, leg, and head, those sound effects are so horrible.
Yes,
yeah, like bones being broken.
Yes.
I also do like that on the third day they just broke one of his legs. They broke my leg.
Yeah.
But
not my
leg.
Swallowing kept on trucking, but there'll be no fucking. That's strictly for the soft. Ain't seen a freak in a week and my nuts fell off. If Violent J goes without sex for 1 week, his nuts will fall off.
He doesn't need them anymore.
It's an important part of his anatomy.
My favorite imagery is right there following that shortly, where his lungs come out and he tries to put them back in, and they won't go back in. Can't get those lungs back in there.
That's a great couplet. Is I'm stuffing the back in. Fuck, they won't go back in. But I also love Shaggy uses 2 different voices in an interlude where he's doing a judge voice. Where it's like, but it's like the stupidest judge voice of all time because he's like, "How do you plead, Mr. Bruce?" He's like, "You mudda."
You mudda. Yeah. But the music but right after he says that, the way it breaks into that music interlude right there and what he's saying, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is the first good ICP song. It's like the music is good, the production is clever.
Yeah.
It's a really good concept and he nails it.
And if I'm not mistaken, at the end, he says, they shoot me up and down, thinking, clown, wicked clown. You want to know about a wicked clown? I never had it made. Mm-hmm. Is that like really the first time they started talking about wicked clown like that? I don't remember hearing that.
They do reference it early. They say wicked clown earlier in the song.
Okay.
In the album.
Okay.
But
I just feel like that. I feel like in that part though, just because it was so monotonous and they kept saying it, wicked clown, and
that's the first time they used it like as a refrain for sure.
Okay.
One thing that also really stood out to me is in the last verse, your ghetto created a psycho nut, not just psycho nut. Like that's a really important distinction. Like, yo, I'm not just psycho. I'm psycho nut.
I'm psycho nut.
But he does talk about how, you're trying to kill him, but he's just going to live in your walls.
Another thing I loved, something that just makes me laugh when I hear it, is he talks about, he's like, now I'm a basehead down on my luck. He like roamed the streets and got hit by a Mack truck. And, but he's like, he sells crack, but he bought the most. And I love how he's like saying he'll hold the sign working for crack with his old E.T. shirt on his back. And I've seen people in Salinas with old E.T. shirts back in the day. And it's just that stood out to me when I heard that. They cracked me up.
Right after that, just for historical information, right after that, he says he's sleeping in the gutter right next to Champtown's mother.
Yeah.
Champtown is apparently, well, from what I've read here, Champtown was another Detroit rapper who would perform while wearing a jester hat. And when ICP came around, he accused ICP of ripping off his steez. Like, it's like these guys are biting off of me. Look at them wearing clown makeup. I have a jester's hat.
Oh.
But I mean, look where Champtown is now. So he's probably in the gutter next to Champtown's mother.
Eating dead rats in the street.
Yeah. But yeah, I also did like I sold a lot of crack, but I bought the most. Like, he put himself out of business as a crack.
Yes. It's just really funny. I mean, like, in every way that you can self-deprecate, they do. And it's so at the antithesis of, like, what rap music would do, especially in those days where everyone was talking about how great they were crack dealers and how awesome they were. And these guys are like all, ugh. It's kind of brilliant to me, you know?
Sure.
So the next track after that is we're getting back into the talking about the South.
Yeah.
Cut his neck with my good blade. 34 years old, still in the 3rd grade. Yeah, speaking on others. Look at your hootenanny ass motherfucker and your bearded bitch. Hey, fuck bump jaw and your rebel flag. Fuck your rebel flag. Fuck your rebel flag.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I do want to point out last week we were talking about Redneck Ho. I referenced a bridge. It's actually in this song where they list the hillbilly names they know.
Oh yeah, no, I
Goober, Hoss, Goober.
Yeah, so here we are going into.
Steve got caught up in that with me as well.
Sorry
to mislead you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so second.
All these songs are the same.
Second full anti-South rap song on the album, and the highlight of this song for me is "Get Back on Your Aardvark," which I don't know what that means.
Who knows? You know, actually,
this is a little bit. This song's less misogynistic for sure. Not as funny as Redneck Ho. Not as good as Redneck Ho. I think the highlight of the song is Shaggy's voice when he's screaming the chorus. Because he's really emphatic about it. He's like, fuck your rebel flag.
I have an interesting story about this because I follow on Twitter Tits and Sass, and it's a blog with sex workers, and it's a very serious blog actually, and it's a really cool blog, and has a lot about, you know, protection and rights for sex workers and stuff like that. And so they have a lot of different blogs, and they're pretty left leaning. So when ICP was doing their march earlier in the summer, they were talking about ICP and how in certain parts of the United States, ICP songs are played a lot in strip clubs. And so they played the best to what to play at that time to support the march and support like anti-fascism and all these things. They were saying, hey, strip clubs, play Fuck Your Rebel Flag, or play this, or just your rebel flags. And then they had links from that blog to YouTube videos, and I clicked on one, and it was ICP playing this song back when I would assume Kick Jazz was still in the group, because it was 3 of them, and they were rapping this song, and it was before Carnival of Carnage had come out. It was back in 90 or 91. But and it was really cool. So I got the link to that video of them playing live in Detroit from a sex worker blog.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
It being pro ICP. They're like, this is a cool song. These guys have been saying fuck the South since the 90s, and that was kind of what the blog was about. Mm-hmm. And then they had links to a few other ICP videos, like one off of Malenko. I can't remember which song it was. But
I mean, isn't chicken hunting about this?
Yes.
Like, are the chickens that they're hunting Southern bigots?
Rednecks? Yes.
Yeah, it's like, that's what chicken hunting is. It's like you go down south to try to kill some bigots.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna ask what their best anti-South song is, but it's obviously chicken hunting.
It's obviously chicken hunting.
Yeah, definitely. But more politically correct, this song can be played, because not too many people are going to be too upset to hear Fuck Your Rebel Flag, as much more they would be hearing about going and violently killing white, ignorant, redneck people.
So I really like that in this song he says that he's 34 and still in the 3rd grade, which is a callback to the previous track where he only makes it to 3rd grade before he quits school. Right. So that was really good.
I like this song has both barrels to your chest and blow your lungs out, and I'm gonna shoot you in the back till your chest falls off. So equal opportunity torso murder.
Right. I mean, you got to shoot somebody a lot of times in their back to make their chest fall off.
Well, if you got a real big gun just once.
I guess maybe.
I was thinking shotgun.
Like a death becomes her situation.
Yes. Put the candelabra right through there.
But yeah, I thought that, like, so when I was listening to this again, I was thinking back, holy shit, like I never ever made it this far into the album whenever I listened to it. But Jesse Kick Jazz's verse, I wasn't sure when I was listening to him whether that was Shaggy 2 Dope. Because at this point they've established that they do different voices all the time. And so how are you supposed to know who's talking? Mm-hmm. But I liked too the times when Shaggy is very serious
Yeah.
Like there's I think it's on Bizarre. It's one of the Bizarre albums. At the end track, like one of the many extra things that goes on in that like 22-minute track, and they're talking on the phone, and they're like gonna hang out, and Violent J's like, hey, don't bring any of your shit when you come over, just come over, just like bring a tape or whatever, and Shaggy's like, no, I'm just gonna bring like 2 pieces of equipment. Because they're gonna make this song, right? And so, and then immediately at the end of that really funny call, they play the song, and it's this like 40-second song that Shaggy Tudo recorded. Like he did all the music and he does the verse, and it's like really aggressive, just like straight rap. It's not like he does like reference ICP things, but it's like I feel like there's this kind of conflict within Shaggy all the time, where he wants to be the like kind of hard gangster guy a little bit, but he's also cool with the weird clowny stuff. Whereas Jay's just a goofy weirdo all the time. Shaggy is like kind of like forced to hang out with Jay because Jay thinks he's cool or something.
I also feel like Violent J is like very clearly extremely prolific, regardless of what your personal opinion may be on his ability or talent level. Like he creates shit all the time. Like he's the vast majority of the verses on ICP songs. He's the vast majority of like output outside of ICP. And I feel like we've all joked many times about Shaggy's shitty verses, but Shaggy's proven over the years that he's capable of writing really great verses. And I think it's just a function of Shaggy only has so much good stuff inside him.
Right. It's got
but
he's
forced to put out an output. Like when ICP puts out an album, he's forced to put out beyond what he's capable of doing.
He can't keep up with Jay's quantity. Can't keep his quality up.
Or he feels like, oh, I have to at least have a verse on X number of tracks on this album, or I'm not pulling my own weight, and maybe like half of those will be good because he only has so much in him at a given time. It probably takes him much. I don't know this at all, but I would imagine it takes him much longer to come up with.
Well, he must have spent some time on this song because he does really well in his verse. He has a pretty decent verse, man.
Yeah, I feel like Shaggy's ratio of being on this album to being good on this album is extremely high. Like possibly his highest percentage of all time. Because it's on like 3 tracks and like all of his verses are good.
Yeah. The last note that I wrote on this song is that it's 4 minutes and 24 seconds long, but
Jesus Christ.
But that's somehow still a minute too long. Like there's, I don't know why that these songs as we get to the end they just feel
this
like
song
they go
feels
on
like
and
it's
on
8
and
minutes
on.
long. Like,
Yeah,
it's just that it's grating. Like it's not that it's bad. It's just too much of it.
Right.
Ghetto Freakshow.
Ghetto Freakshow. 3 o'clock in the morning and you're sleeping. Wicked clowns in the moonlight creeping. Slide through your window under your bed. Crawl in through your ear, I'm in your head. Bumping into bones cause I need lightning.
Yeah.
Another in the continuing back third of the album where it's all about how the ghetto has created a serious problem and now the hens have come home to roost, or however that saying goes. Now society will reap what they have sown because they created these monsters in this Dark Carnival by the ghettoization of the slums of Detroit.
Well, so the first thing that I really like about this song is, even though I don't expressly like the production, like I don't think it's that great of a song. It's okay, but I really appreciated the turntable style production of like scratching a record or whatever, juggling a record to produce that Ghetto Freakshow loop, because like hip hop music doesn't do that anymore, right? Like
that's something that this is honestly. Every time I hear this in a studio track on a rap or hip hop song, I wonder how they did it, because like I have always wondered, like when you hear that when they're juggling like a hook that's clearly made for this track, did they put that track on? Did they put that?
They pressed it
hook
onto
wax,
yeah,
so that they could. That's awesome. I've always wondered, and now I know that. Like, because I was like, that must be how they do it. They must quickly press just a hook onto wax, But that's amazing that they make a run of one album that just has like one line on it, so they can scratch it. That rules. I love that.
Yeah. And so it made me think of, I'm listening to it, I'm listening to the scratching, and a thought came, or a memory came back to me of the Invisible Scratch Pickles, Scratchy the Seal. So the Invisible Scratch Pickles used to put out these, turntable TV. It was like these, 30 or 40 minute videos that you could get in like skate shops or whatever. And they would do goofy stuff. So it was like, kind of like Jackass, but in a really fun, playful kind of way, like a little bit more, I guess. Like
where
juvenile.
they do hot turntable stunts.
Well, and then they mix in, yeah. So it's like DJ crew, like turntable crew, and then they do little skits in between that are funny, and then there's shots of them at shows and stuff like that. And so I had always remembered that we would watch this VHS tape of turntable TV, and it was called Wash Your Trash. And sometimes over the years, I would look on YouTube and see if I could find it, specifically wanting to watch this Scratchy the Seal interview, and never been able to find it. Well, so I'm listening to this track. This is just tonight, and I open up YouTube and I search for, Wash Your Trash, and one video comes up, and it's the fucking interview with Scratchy the Seal and DJ Eclipse, I think is his name. From DJ Total Eclipse, from Invisible Scratch Pickles. And so that whole clip is on there, and I strongly suggest that everybody go and watch it. The interview is actually with Scratchy Seal's Italian brother, who conducts the interview, I think with a cigarette in his mouth the whole time. And he's interviewing DJ Total Eclipse, and it's funny. And then DJ Total Eclipse, it goes into him performing at a show, and that is absolutely like 4 to 5 minutes of your time that is worth spending watching this guy. And he's juggling the whole time. He does like 5 maybe different songs, and they just get more and more impressive. And by the end, everybody's dying. Like, they can't imagine. He's scratching with his elbows and spinning around.
Yeah, I got to see Invisible Scratch Pickles open up for Beastie Boys.
Oh wow.
And it was real awesome. But yeah, Ghetto Freakshow, I love the beginning of Ghetto Freakshow because the first half of the first verse is, I feel it's the first, we've gotten into the absurdism and the mythology of Violent J being supernatural and unable to die, but I feel like this is their first truly fantastical imagery where the first half of the first verse is first person talking about a tiny murderer.
So wait a minute.
A minuscule murderer.
So he's not like a being. He's like a supernatural being in this song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's fair. All right.
Right?
Because
he's definitely not a human.
Right, but whatever he is, he's small enough or insubstantial enough to climb inside a human being and murder them from the inside out.
And climb out their belly button.
I didn't actually consider that he was a tiny being in this. And so you're
crawl in through your ear, eat your head, bumping into bones because I need light, tiptoeing down through your windpipe.
Right.
Climbing down your spine was the fun part. Looky, and I see your fucking heart. So to me, that conjures up having a physical form and climbing around inside a body.
I think that you're right. Yeah, I did not listen to it that way, like the first time, or just
because when I heard the first half of the first verse, I was like, okay, this is the first dude. He's itty bitty, and we're gonna meet a whole bunch of freaks in the Ghetto Freak Show. Because if they made this song today, that's exactly what that would be.
Right.
Like the first guy's super small, like the fucking atom. The second guy's got like 6 heads.
Yeah, the second
and then a lady with a beard.
Yeah. So this is the song where he's sitting it on your porch chewing on a dead mouse. This is the one.
There he is. Yeah, that's just, he's kicking it.
Also, I love Turn Me Into a Wicked, Wicked Cat. Because this, again, products of the ghetto, they're coming into the suburbs, the rich suburbs. Oh no, that's the last track. But this is the first taste of the ghetto has created these freaks in this freak show, and now they're coming to kill all the people who created the system, like they're talking about murdering the governor.
Yeah, but he also talks about how like rich people are stressed out in life, and he doesn't ever want to be one of them.
Yeah, this
like,
is
that
Violent J is
class
still
struggle.
alive.
Yeah, there's some super problematic stuff in this song, but it's not in service of insulting marginalized people. It's talking from the perspective of people who are stressed out about not being able to handle it, right?
Yeah,
Because he uses a gay slur. He uses a couple gay slurs, but he's talking about a rich person not being able to handle that his son's gay.
Right.
He's not talking about, he's not necessarily using slurs against gay people from his own perspective.
Right. Like I don't know what it means to talk to Mojo Man, but I assume
Yeah,
that it
me
means,
too.
what I assumed is that he means like, if you feel this way, then you need to like straighten up or whatever. Like you need to check yourself.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the last track. It's Taste.
Psychedelic shit with the psycho rhyme. Let's keep the killing in one place. But I'm at your door, motherfucker, have a taste.
Fucking you up, won't let you pass. Fucking you up, shot you in the ass. Jumped out the alleyway with a motherfucking battle axe. Drunk dead bodies on the motherfucking train.
Sure.
And it features Isham. And this is the culmination of the Carnival of Carnage, where they get marching orders. There's actually like the intro is from Jump Steady, the first appearance of Jump Steady, I believe, in history, famous first, where he is giving it a spoken intro with marching sounds, where he says, "The time's come. We're going to move into the suburbs and punish the rich for their ignorance." So this is the culmination of the whole Carnival of Carnage. Like, it started in a sleepy town of your town, and now it's the
horror of death.
Chickens have come home to roost because the ghetto created this freak show, and now they're marching into the suburbs to eat the rich, basically. In some cases, literally. And it's got Violent J, John Kick Jazz, Too Dope, Isham, and Jump Steady has a verse, and I think Jump Steady's verse is actually pretty dope.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, it also has a dude named Capital E in it. So it's got a ton of people on here. Jay, Shaggy, Kick Jazz, Jump Steady, Capital E, and Isham. And the album ends with Isham's verse. The first ICP album ends with Isham having the last word. But it's basically giving the rich a taste of what they've put on other people and that's the crazy thing about the album is, as it goes on, it gets closer to what we understand and know about ICP now. It doesn't necessarily get better or more compelling, but they seem to be figuring out literally in real time as the album progresses. My favorite Isham line is getting more pussy than Belle Biv DeVoe.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I liked. So it's interesting because I feel like this song itself is very imbalanced, and because I feel like the beginning of it, to me, it sounds like little kids trying to be rappers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just saying words and trying to rap or whatever, trying to like sound tough. And to me, it all comes across as being very like not genuine, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then
the content of this song isn't great.
But then Jump Steady comes in with like out of nowhere with like a really well performed, like well written and well performed verse that is actually like where he takes an anti-war stance, like an anti-Desert Storm stance, which is like a weird take, I don't know, for this type of music, this time.
He also names drops Iron Fist.
Oh, I missed that.
But yeah, it's just weird how we've talked a bunch about how completely disjointed the whole album is, and it's just piecemeal, and they're taking stuff from Inner City Posse. They're taking tracks that they recorded God knows how long ago. They're repurposing tracks to make them more about clowns. They're keeping people's old verses from stuff that doesn't necessarily fit. And yet, at the end, it's all coming together with Never Had It Made, really getting the ICP thing, Ghetto Freakshow talking about, the ghetto creating this, and then Taste being like, hey, this is what the Dark Carnival is. It's the freaks that have been created by society holding the people who created the freaks to task or accountable. And one thing I wanted to make sure to talk about before we leave this album behind us is the actual concept of the ghetto and the actual concept of inner city Detroit poverty. Because while the extent to which Insane Clown Posse, Joe and Joey, while the extent to which Joe Bruce and Joseph Utzler were mistreated by the system or the circumstances surrounding their upbringing, we can never really know that. It's never been a case of like, well, the truth is that they were actually rich kids or well off. Like, they did have troubled pasts and they did see poverty firsthand. Now, I'm sure that they had a fundamentally different experience growing up in inner city Detroit than, say, any black person growing up in inner city Detroit did. I mean, like, what's your guys' take on this, especially on this first album, latching on so hard to like the ghetto created me, coming from these two people?
I can believe it. Growing up just in East Salinas, I can see how someone could let their environment affect them in a particular way to lead them into a criminal lifestyle. I mean, it was really easy over there, and there's not a lot of opportunity, and it's worse in a place like Detroit. And so I can totally see, like, I'm not going to try to say that their experience is the same as, like you were saying, for, black people in Detroit, because on top of just the poverty for them, we have white privilege and all these other things to take in consideration. So definitely it's not equal, but when you're poor at the same time. I don't believe that they're any less poor than a black family, but there's all those unwritten opportunities that we can get sometimes in society, even if you're poor. You know what I mean? So, but I definitely believe the poverty and not going to school helped them, become at least the characters that they wrote about.
Yeah, that's a really, really good take. I mean, Ryan, obviously I'm really interested to hear your take on that. And like, with the indisputable fact of white privilege, like, there must be on some level some issue taken or an issue to be observed about white people claiming ownership of the ghetto?
Well, I mean, so like we have like a real conversation about that. I give you one answer, but like in the context of ICP, I think it's very much like part of their identity. So whether that's real, I think that's one discussion, but in the context of how they identify, absolutely. And I think it's even reflected in, if I'm remembering this correctly, like in the shockumentary, they talk about when they were first started rapping, they wore masks, like clown masks, because they didn't want people to know that they were white. Like they wanted to try to be accepted as legitimate rappers, like real artists or whatever, like part of the culture. And so I think that that is really part of their identity. The way that they dress, the style of clothes that they wear is that kind of like stolen hip hop, like aesthetic, right? That white people's stolen aesthetic. That's their whole thing. That's the whole Juggalo thing. Is it allows white people mostly. I'm comfortable saying talk like it gives. I was thinking about this. It basically gives white people the feeling like they can say the N-word, like that it's part of their culture, it's part of their identity, and because they're connected to the ghetto and like poverty, which is actually a real thing, right? Like that there's equity in poverty.
So just within the context of the conversation of Insane Clown Posse, you think that there's validity in what they're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's based on their experience. Like, I think that some of it is exaggerated or whatever, or sometimes they embellish, to be funny. But I think that it's basically rooted in the things that they thought or felt about in their developmental years. That's what this whole, and it's even like the butterfly, the like imagery that they use like the secrets that got revealed over the course of revealing the Joker's cards, 17 and the whatever, all those different connections or whatever, they're really influential moments from their childhood. And so that's what they rap about. It's like the environment that made them who they were. And it's self-fulfilling because they then become they have this identity of these clowns, and it builds on that narrative for them of like that's their true identity. I got a little bit spacey there for a second. So
no, you held it together.
Okay,
that's good. I feel like we'll probably have more conversations like that, but I love that we're able to have like legitimate conversations about this as we're going through Insane Clown Posse's catalog.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad we're having a we're able to talk about it now over the last of this album, which was not as fun to listen to.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can have this good talk here. It's a good time.
Now the next conversation we need to have is the next release chronologically is not Ringmaster. It is Beverly Kills 50187.
Yes.
Wow.
Awful.
So all right, so your listening assignment for next week is to listen to the 6-track EP Beverly Kills 50187. It should be on Spotify and YouTube and everywhere else that you listen to music without having to pay for it.
Jesus, man. I mean, I
thought we were moving into the good stuff, but now we're going backwards.
Well, the good news is Carnival of Carnage is behind us, and they had another year and a half to do Beverly Kills. So let's hope it worked. This is going to be me and Ryan's basically first time listening to this EP. So
yeah, I've never heard it either.
All right. Well, we're all going to enter this brave new world together. But it's just a 1 week interlude, and then we will get to the first true Joker's card, Ringmaster, the following week.
That's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a real good time. Funky good time. Guys, thanks as always. I'm having such a blast doing this with both of you. And I hope that all 6 of you are having a good time listening along with us. Hi, Weber.
Outstanding.
As always, you can find us, you can talk to us with your own observations, dimcarnival@gmail.com, Twitter @dimcarnival, Instagram @dimcarnival. One of these will surely have a link to Scratchy the Seal.
Oh, yeah, maybe that. Or tell us what your favorite track was and why.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, give us feedback regardless of what's going on. Like, we're in this, clearly we're in this for an extremely long haul, so.
And if you have anything that links back to, like, a conspiracy theory or like a secret identity or something like that, I'll be very interested.
Or if you've got, like, links to, academic theses about Carnival of Carnage or anything else, feel free to lay it on us. We're always down to educate ourselves. Yeah. But yeah, thanks to you guys for talking, and thanks to everybody for listening. And I'm Bill.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steve.
And we're the Dim Carnival. We'll talk to you next week.
I was hoping, guys, that we could warm up a little bit, talking about...
Ryan has to eat a couple ding-dongs.
I've eaten one ding-dong.
He's got to sluice the ding-dong pipe.
I got another one in the back chamber there.
Ding-dong, yo. Ding-dong.
Ding-dong.